And that's the painting, where the famous painting of the eagle eating his liver. And it's an allegory for this flood. There's another thing about Prometheus. His other name is Typhon. Red oxen, however, may be sacrificed because it was thought that this was the color of Typhon, who plotted against Osiris and was then punished by Isis for the death of her husband. Okay. They used to go after the red-headed men in Egypt because of him. Now, Osiris and Isis changed from good minor deities into gods, but the power of Typhon weakened and crushed, but still fighting and struggling against extinction. They try to console and mollify by certain sacrifices, but again, there are times when at certain festivals they humiliate and insult him by assailing red-headed men with jeering, and by throwing an ass over the edge of a precipice, as the people of Copto do, because Typhon had red hair and in color resembled an ass. Red-headed stepchild, red-headed people get a lot of insults, and I think it comes from this. Doesn't mean every red-headed person is related to this guy. I have red in my hair, but this is what they did in Egypt. Look at what the Church of Satan says. This is a screenshot. Church of Satan history, modern Prometheus. Temple of Set, started by Michael Aquino, who came out of this Church of Satan created by the Jewish guy Anton LaVey, whose real name is Howard Levy, I believe. He was out of Chicago. There's your upside down pentagram, and it's the Temple of Set, another name for Satan. Okay, so he has a lot of symbols. I'm probably going to change some of that. Do you see that thing on the right at the bottom? That was actually part of a really bizarre sculpture in New York next to a large cathedral in a children's garden. Bizarre, right? Dionysus Osiris and all of his symbols. The obelisk. I don't know if you're aware of what that represents, but it's the male reproductive organ. Because the story is that after Osiris was killed, his wife found him, buried him, and Set dug him up and chopped him up, and she found the parts. The only part that was missing was the phallus, and therefore they created these obelisks. A lot of Freemasons are into obelisks on their graves. Ariadne Isis, some of her symbols, and her other names. Athena, Apollo, and on and on. Even in Africa, like Mama Wati is like a goddess, a snake goddess. You see like snakes with these people a lot. I kind of think she can be shown as a white or a black woman in Africa, and she was a goddess of love. So every culture kind of represents it as its own. Kabbalah. Kabbalah is the bloodline of Zeus, and that top seraph Kether represents Zeus. How do I know that? Because I found it in a book by Richard Cavendish, Black Arts, and it tells me every one of those circles, the separate, are related to a Greek god or goddess, which is a Cronide. And so you can look at clip-on through the works of Crowley and other people and put the pieces together that that's Prometheus and some other people. These people were referred to as Atlanteans. There's a big story about how these Atlanteans had to battle the Amazons. They went to war. Amazons were, they were real. It was a woman warrior group. And the way that they got rid of them was that there was another woman warrior group called Gorgons. And they enticed the queen of the Amazons, Queen Myrina, which sounds an awful lot like Xena, to go to war with these people. And they both wiped each other out pretty much, except for a handful of Amazons that were highly prized. You know, people would marry them because of their strength. But I just want to read a little bit. It says, whereupon the Atlanteans presented her with magnificent presents and by public decree voted to her notable honors, and she in return accepted their courtesy and in addition promised that she would show kindness to their nation. Atlanteans. They're called Atlanteans. These people are the Atlanteans. They're all related. It tells you that the gods came from these people and they lived by the ocean. Atlas is another name for Iapetus, and he had a son also named Atlas. They went over in that area as well. The Atlas Mountains are named after the sun, but I'm going to tell you their fate in a minute. What about the giants? Why do we always hear about these giants and these red-haired giants? And, you know, that's the other mystery. And I tend to think, you know, they were marrying each other, and they may have been some kind of a different species or had some different genetics, but there are giants in history. Here's a picture of one of them. Actually, it's two of them. The Hugo brothers. They were French. Those are their siblings, like normal size. Look how tall they are. Okay? There's a lot of giants. I've been studying this on the side as well. There are certain genetics. It's not always a pituitary tumor or a problem. There are some genetics that cause large stature. Okay, speaking of giants, what is one other area that I'm looking into is something going on in Nevada. There's a story of red-haired giants, or at least red-haired people, that went to battle with the Paiute out in Nevada, and it ended badly for the red-haired Caucasoid people, and they were murdered off. I do, in fact, know that Sarah Winnemucca wrote about it in her book. There were over 2,600 of them, and they killed them off. The last went to a cave, and they threw fire in it and smoked them to death. She wrote this book in the late 1800s. In the early 1900s, that cave was found, and mummies were taken out. I can't talk too much about it because this is something I'm working on, but they have not been DNA tested. And some of those mummies ended up through the Hay Foundation to the Smithsonian. And I know where the other ones are. I don't want to reveal that, but the ones at the Smithsonian were dumped. They were never properly DNA tested. And you can thank NAGPRA for that. I think that it's an excuse. Things are being covered up. And I'm going to tell you a couple of the reasons why. I was out in different parts of Nevada, and I found petroglyphs of what appears to be ships. And Phoenician-like letters just outside of Las Vegas on those petroglyphs. I don't know of any Native American tribe that writes like that or wrote like that. But that sure looks like a Phoenician variation. I wrote a book about it. I'm still studying it. I'm still working on it. That red-haired tribe was accused of cannibalism. There were two anthropologists, one out of the University of California, one from the Hay Foundation, that went to that cave when these guano miners, it was bat dung, they were digging in this cave because they used that for a fuel. That's how they found these mummies with artifacts. The anthropologists that studied that found pits, storage pits. They were hunting, they were eating fish, they were, various traps. They had atlatls. Atlatls is a tool to throw spears. That comes out of ancient Europe. A lot of Native Americans, I think, when the last round of Europeans came, had bows and arrows. There was some evidence of cannibalism. There were 3 bones found, though. And I tend to think, from what I've read in the stories, it was a fierce war situation. They went to war for 3 years. They were battling each other. And they were doing nasty things to each other. The red-haired people lost completely. She wrote about it, Sarah Winnemucca. She says in her book, my people say that the tribe we exterminated had reddish hair. I have some of their hair, which has been handed down from my father to son. I have a dress which has been in our family a great many years, trimmed with this reddish hair. Life among the Paiutes. She's not the only one that wrote about Caucasian people in the Americas. Another lady was Lucy Thompson, to the American Indian. When the Indians first made their appearance on the Klamath River, it was already inhabited by a white race of people known among us as the Wagas. These white people were found to inhabit the whole continent and were a highly moral and civilized race. They heartily welcomed the Indians to their country and taught us all their arts and sciences. The Indians recognized the rights of these ancient people as the first possessors of the soil, and no difficulties ever arose between the two people. Their hospitality was exceedingly generous in the welfare of our people, and all prospered together in peace and happiness in the pursuit of the human existence. After a time, there were intermarriages between the two races, but they were never promiscuous. Just for me, looking into this and talking about it on my websites and YouTube, I've gotten some of the most nastiest trolls from calling me everything, from a Nazi to white supremacist and evil and all kind of things, just for even talking about this and saying, what is this about? That's the state of the world that we live in today. I didn't say this. These ladies wrote this in the 1800s. And just for me asking about it, I get a lot of hate. Just a real red man. Now, with that, I've given you a history that this opens up the possibility that Europeans were traveling to the Americas, as I said the Cronides did for thousands of years. St. Patrick, what symbol is he giving you? This again. He had to go in and get rid of, I guess they said the snakes of Ireland, which probably is just a symbol for Druids. They didn't want any more human sacrifice, any of those cults coming back, so he brought in Christianity. They're always giving you a symbol. Zeus, Cronide blessing. Look at Jesus. What's he doing? He's giving you a blessing, he's pointing to his heart. So who was this guy? Was he part of this pharaonic bloodline or the bloodline of Zagreus and Dionysus? I'm starting to wonder. There's rumors that say he's buried in Kashmir at Rose Bowl. I know some people there have tried to research it and retrieve the body out of there, DNA test it, and they were pretty much run out. Okay, I told you about that. All of these are cults of Jupiter's Devasis, which is Zeus. I told you about the Americas, that there was extensive evidence of cannibalism. Whites were here. They were interbreeding or they were getting murdered off or run out, but that fits with what the Cronides were doing, traveling and various issues. What happened to our memory? How come we don't remember this? Well, what happened was the Dark Ages and the Inquisition. They call you a witch. They got rid of the knowledge. They got rid of the wise women and men. They tortured it out of them. They burnt the books. They killed the last librarian of the Library of Alexandria, Hypatia. Look up her story. That's how all this information disappeared. And they keep it quiet. Harvard in the Vatican basement. Through their language, their code, the symbols and the art, the hand symbols. By the way, you know that's a picture of a tapestry from Europe of white people building mounds. There's mounds all over Europe. Very similar to what's in America. I've been studying a lot of that too. And I believe Atlantis is very real because it was not only talked about by Plato, but by Diodorus Siculus and a few other authors that seemed to go under the water at some point. Amazons and Gorgons were real. Those statues show you it. Brutus stone, remember I told you Brutus came from Aeneas out of Italy and created a bloodline in England for the King Arthur bloodline. And the Yngvi was the Nordic king. I told you about that. Remember I said there's a problem with the timeline. I just think they were related, but not, direct sons of these gods and goddesses who had lived a long time ago. As I told you, there was a matriarchy before this patriarchy, and we know that because of these Venuses all over the place being very old, much older than this other stuff. And the priests keep it quiet. And I believe these bloodlines exist today from these people. Who are the Watchers? We're getting close to the end. Cronus and his brothers and the other Titans. After these events, Cronus built a wall around his habitation and found Byblus, the first city of Phoenicia. Afterwards, Cronus, suspecting his own brother Atlas, another name is Iapetus, by the advice of Hermes, thought, threw him into a deep cavern in the earth and buried him. That's Iapetus in New York. Iapetus taught astrology just like the fallen angel Rockwell taught. After the death of Hyperion, by the way, Hyperion was another one of the Titans they murdered because he was ascending to power. They didn't like Cronus, and Iapetus didn't want that. After the death of Hyperion, the myth relates the kingdom was divided among the sons of Uranus, the most renowned of whom were Atlas and Cronus. Of those sons, Atlas received as his part of the regions of the coast of the ocean. And he not only gave the name of Atlanteans to his peoples, but likewise called the greatest mountain in the land Atlas. They also say that he perfected the science of astrology and was the first to publish to mankind the doctrine of the sphere. And it was for this reason that the idea was held that the entire heavens were supported upon the shoulders of Atlas, the myth darkly hinting in the way at his discovery and description of the sphere. Right? And that's Hyperion, the sun god. They stabbed him to death. That's a Sumerian seal. All of your cult, your Goetia, go back to these Phoenicians. That's Ashtaroth. Remember I told you about her, the half-sister of Cronus? That's her symbol. This is a Hamza with the eye in the center. It's got Hebrew letters on it. This is a replica of a disc from Alabama, Moundville, that I just went to. It's the same thing. But they won't admit that. And always in the Goetia, they represent these demons as androgynous. I think it's because some of them are female and some are male, and it's kind of like a way to keep it quiet. But Ashtaroth is talked about in these books. She's a half-sister. So now you know who Osiris was. Anubis, his son, Horus. The Queen of Sheba, a black queen, Ethiopian queen, wanted to know who God was, went all over the world to find him. Definitely think she was real, but I think she found him and more. But a woman who really wanted knowledge and strived to find it. Now, I want to say, we're at the end. What I've told you is information from scholars that wrote things before biblical times. They describe these people as very real, various colors of hair, blue eyes, tall, Caucasoid. But then you get into Semitic writings. And I showed you the Queen of Sheba from Ethiopia because you have a lot of Ethiopian esoteric writings that are related to Judaism because she went in and learned from King Solomon. So you'll find, various texts like the book of, about Enoch, taken up by the angels. There'll be an Ethiopian version, a Slavic, and a Greek version. Other Greeks also wrote. But this Nag Hammadi, which was found out in Egypt, and all these other Semitic, portray these people as unknowable, mysterious, not human. And you have a modern day cult of these alien believers, gray aliens and such. You have different points of view of who these people were. Now I just want to read this to you. This is out of the Nag Hammadi. It says that these people had to disguise themselves to mate with women. And he made a plan with his powers. He sent his angels to the daughters of men that they might take some of them for themselves and raise offspring for their enjoyment. And at first they did not succeed. When they had no success, they gathered together again, and they made a plan together. They created a counterfeit spirit who resembles the spirit, but it descended so as not to pollute the souls of it. And the angels changed themselves in their likeness to the likeness of the daughters of men, mates, filling them with the spirit of darkness, which they had mixed with them and with evil. They brought gold and silver and a gift, and copper, and iron, and metal, and all kinds of things. And they stared the people who had followed them into great troubles by leading them astray with many deceptions. They, the people, became old without having enjoyment. They died, not having found truth, and without knowing the God of truth. And thus the whole creation became enslaved, and forever, from the foundation of the world until now. And they took women and begot children out of the darkness according to the likeness of their spirit. And they closed their hearts and hardened themselves with the hardness of the counterfeit spirit until now. I will admit, through my studies, I do find a lot of symbolism in this ancient art, especially in the Sumerian or just other things, that looks like characteristics of the planets. There's an eye on Saturn and a pentagram. But just today I was looking at a picture of Jupiter, the bottom of Jupiter. And it's the first time I saw somebody actually present it at the bottom. Not, you always see it with the side with the eye. And in the center it has something like a black sun, which is the symbol I see all over Nevada. The big circle and then the spikes all around it. And then you have all the rings. That's like those concentric rings in the petroglyphs. So it is a mystery. And you do wonder that why did these really ancient people have some of this knowledge? You can't see that with the naked eye. In the building, I know that Hindus build temples on the square. There is a methodology to that, and those temples are supposed to represent the god or goddess that they're building it for. There's a science to it. Someone taught it to them. So I'm not the end-all telling you what this is. I'm just trying to give you another piece of the puzzle because I'm still trying to learn. I have my view that these were real people and they lived a long time ago, but they died, and their descendants live on. And I believe in a spirit world, and we have a soul, and so on. There are other people that have an Abrahamic point of view. They believe in God and a devil, but they don't. That's all they know. And angels, and they'll tell you the angels made it with human women, but that they can't tell you how. Then you'll have people that believe in the alien point of view, that we're seeded by aliens, and that there's still hair living under the ground and in the moon base and so on. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to say anybody is wrong. I'm just telling you this information's here. They kept it hidden from you. You don't know about this till now. It's in your art. It's in your ancient sculptures. But it's kept quiet. So I'm here. I'm glad that I was able to come here and begin to open up your eyes to this. My research is ongoing, and if, whatever you take away today, great. Maybe someday you'll show me something I didn't know, and I'll learn something else. But I just want to point out there's such a different point of view, but they're all talking about the same people or the same group. These books give you a timeline, those don't.
Conclusions.
Well, pretty much what I just told you. Thank you. That's it. And if you have any questions, I have a little bit of time left.
I would like to ask, you mentioned that you see that this knowledge brings particular value to people. And you remember yourself probably before you knew all these things and now. How would you describe what may be a personal value, like self-identity changes, or like how it influences person? What does it mean?
Okay, well, first of all, I think it's a process. When I would say I was innocent when I got into this. I started off with these children's books. I thought I was just going to write a really cute adventure story, and I had like a basic understanding of mythology, but I fell down that rabbit hole. And when you fall down that rabbit hole, it's a process. You go through anger and rage and disbelief because you're angry, because you're like, why did they lie? Why didn't they show us this? Why is this being hidden? I went through a lot of emotions when I've been going through this, and sometimes I still get very angry. Like in some of my videos, I'm like, maybe sometimes I say something I shouldn't have. Like I yell about the priests lying to everybody, and then I feel like they gotta be taken to task for this stuff. But at the same time, I'm glad I know the truth, but I don't know all of it. Because like I just said, there's people that think that these people were aliens, and this other passage was saying that they were changing their appearance.
No, I mean, what value did you receive?
I don't, the value, okay.
I'm not, did you become better, or did you start?
I'm not afraid of death. I just am afraid of not doing everything I need to do in life before it's time to go. I'm not as worried. Okay, I was raised Catholic, so I don't have those worries about, you better not do these sins and you're going to go to hell, and because I understand where their religion came from, and I understand, and I'm going to say the fraud that's been committed. There's great power in having this knowledge kept quiet. You control the people that way. And these priests don't have to work a really hard job. They don't work as a maid or something really tough. They get like a certain amount of money, and the popes live in the Vatican. And by the way, those priests used to be allowed to be married till about 1000 AD, and something changed in that church. And they got rid of the wives, and they wouldn't let the priests get married anymore. And then the Inquisition and the Crusades started. So something isn't quite right with what happened in that church. So for me, it answers a lot of my questions of how did we get to this point. It actually gives me a little bit of peace after going through all those emotions. I feel that if people could come together on this, we could get rid of this religious conflict. Maybe it's going to go into something else because everybody always has an issue and wants to fight about something because everybody wants the biggest piece of the pie, maybe. But maybe if people understood this, they'd quit killing each other and doing disgusting things like cutting heads off in the name of a god. And that's kind of, I'm hoping someday maybe this will get out enough to get the mindset of the people changed.
So as I understood from what you say, one of benefits, in other words, is that a particular part of psyche was hidden by modern education. And these old stories, they help revive this wild part of the psyche and understand it and review it. And by this, psychologists do similar things sometimes. They help you to go to things which were hidden. And then some problems are resolved. And if you do not go there, then the problem is not resolved. So this may help kind of go into these areas of the psyche and see it and resolve these problems.
Right, and we have people walking around the planet that think God is telling them to cut people's heads off because they're not a certain religion. You know where Muhammad came up with his religion? At the cave of Hira. You know Hera, Hera, Hira is the jealous wife of Zeus. Okay, so that's where, I mean, we're going back to a horrible time with the mindset of these people that think God is telling them to kill other people. I don't know if I'll ever get out enough to kind of correct that, but I'm putting that information out. Maybe somebody will get it and realize, hey, something's wrong here. I'm not gonna do these things. I need to learn more. I need to think more. Maybe somebody told me the wrong stuff.
Do you have any books for sale by any chance?
What I'd like to do, here, I'm gonna hand some out. I'm online. This is my first book for my children's series. If you'd like a copy for free, you may have it. And like I said, I'm online. You can buy all my books, just kind of research it. Would your friends like a copy? They don't have to leave?
Blue Mountains is in Wisconsin.
I've been all over. I've been to Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, Wisconsin, Illinois, Cahokia. There's so many mounds yet. I'm kind of satisfied at this point with what I've learned there, and I'm kind of concentrating on the Lovelock Cave and learning more about this and trying to put it into a more updated, complete package, because I wrote as I went along. And sometimes, like I said, my emotions can come out, or I'm learning something new. What I want to do is eventually come up with a final book and conclude all this. But for now, I have books out there. I have a website, several websites, because I separated the children's material from the adult material. And then I have some fiction that I just kind of had fun with. I have separate YouTube channels where I kind of put my thoughts or some research. If I went out to mounds, I took film or pictures, I put that on YouTube. If you look at my YouTube stuff and you're like, oh my God, why is she saying this about the Jews or something, don't get offended, because it's, like I said, I have to start somewhere, and it started with that statement about Jupiter Sabazius. And like I said, it's a process. Like, you go through these feelings of like, why didn't they tell us this stuff? Well, how did they get away with this for so long? And then you learn about what they did in the Inquisition. Like, the tortures were disgusting. How they would they would scare the heck out of people so you didn't have your pagan religion anymore. You converted and killed off anybody who wasn't going to convert. And then the books were removed, right? So that's how all that got lost. The Dark Ages, and then they had the Renaissance, but they bring this out. They don't teach us in the schools. They should be teaching us at the high school level. They teach about the Iliad and Odyssey. They have that. Why aren't they teaching about the Dionysiaca?
Maybe they're afraid that it will lead to perversion in people. If young people will start thinking about all kind of the things, it may pervert.
Even at the college level, they don't teach this.
Even
at the college level, they don't teach this. This is, it's not occult, which means hidden. It's esoteric. It means it's there. You can purchase this stuff, but they don't let the people know enough about it to know. I stumbled into this, and I'm still learning. I'm like, what is this? And then I started to see the story, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
I thought that there is particular responsibility in what you are doing. If you're just giving to people all this information, there are two ways. One way is healing, other way is perversion. And to direct people to healing way, there should be some additional something. there should be some method how to use all this information to heal yourself and not to pervert yourself.
Not to get angry, you mean?
Yes.
Like I did?
Not to how to come to particular good results,
Yeah.
not to bad results, because some people may come to bad results. They may
Right.
say, "Oh yeah, I want to do the same," and start doing this. And
I've even thought about, like, when my kids get older, confronting these priests and rabbis at their places. I'm not sure if that would do any good, but how do you get this information out there to even do that good stuff? Like I said, on YouTube, I have a small following. I get some of the most nasty comments from some people. Most people are good, most people get it. But I'm like, I get people that want to shut me down. I had one preacher up in Canada that wouldn't get off my channel, and he came on with different troll names and kept just at me. And I'm like, I found out who he was, and I had to keep banning him. And it was just bizarre. Like, he was calling me all these names and stuff, and I'm like, but you're a preacher. You're a retired preacher. Look at the words you're using. And to a stranger on YouTube.
I think people are afraid of what they don't understand, and they don't have an open mind enough to look at different things. Even if you're raised Roman Catholic, I was raised Roman Catholic, and I survived. But and it's a wonderful way to go. But to be open enough to realize that there's more than one way to go. There's more than one way to look at things. There's more than one religion in the world. There's more than there's one God by 1,000 different names that covers religions over 10, 20, 40, 80,000 years. So I think you're dealing with, people who might, maybe on the YouTube channel, you have a small following, maybe it's people that are so into their minute thing that they're picking it apart. Maybe if you made it more accessible, or not, I don't want to say understandable, because I understood what you were talking about, but it's a lot to take in.
It is, yes.
I mean, maybe if you can do it in like smaller bites for like laymen that don't have a freaking clue.
Right.
That can say, here's lesson 1 on X, right? And then it kind of draws them in, and if this interests you, then here's this, and this,
Right.
So, I mean, it's very interesting. Some of it, I it plays over a little bit, I'll be honest, but it's fascinating. And it makes me want to go and read more, whether it's your
Right.
books or their books or whatever it is, because I do too study all different religions, from Muslim to Judaism to Christianity and where you use, so we embrace everyone here. So, that's just my little input, but it's fascinating.
Yeah, and and like you said, it's a lot of responsibility. I'm the one who figured this out. There's, out of 7 billion people, I'm the only one telling you this. Now, there was a guy who was Japanese doing something very similar, but he speaks in Japanese, so I can't understand him. But somebody on my YouTube said, I swear this is your twin soul in Japan. And he's like, look at this video. And I'm looking, and you can see the same pictures of what I kind of showed you, but they're a little different. But I can't understand the guy because he's speaking in Japanese most of the time. And he's like, I swear this is your soulmate or your twin soul in Japan, and he's doing the same thing you're doing. But I'm like, I don't know anybody doing this. And it is frustrating because, okay, like I said, I went through all these emotions, but what, like he said, what's your end goal? And what are you trying to do with this? And what's the good of all this information? And like I said, I actually feel like, okay, it's my mission to tell the world this. And I'm just going to be blunt about it. I don't know if it'll take time after I'm dead to finally get this information out, or somebody else has to pick it up, pick the, baton up and carry it to another level or what, but James Loeb started, right? He probably had no clue of what he was doing. And he died before he probably understood the importance of that library that he was putting together. And he was rich, and he was, a banking family, he had it made, and in his gut, he knew it wasn't the right thing for him. And when he got sick, he's like, that's it. I got to do what my passion is. And he went and he started putting this together. And like I said, it didn't have the number of books it has now, but he probably had no idea of the importance of this library and what was in it and what he started. And I don't know, like in my lifetime, if I'll ever get that much out there. My books are out there, and when you die, those books stay. Maybe somebody else, you or somebody you know or somebody else will pick that baton up and take it even further. Or maybe you'll see me on the news getting arrested when I confront these priests. No, I'm just kidding. But I don't know. I've thought about what you were saying. What are you trying to do with this stuff? How are you going to get it out to people? How are they going to react to it? How are you trying to present it to them? And like I said, it's a process, because I started off with those kids' books, and I fell in this rabbit hole, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. How I got to tell everybody this, and okay, now I got all the facts, and I got even more detail. Like I said, the stuff in America. You just keep going down that rabbit hole, and you got to decide at a certain point. Now stop. What do you do? And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'll get people on there, that like I said, you got to be careful, because people, like I said, people will call you a Nazi or a supremacist or a racist, blah, blah, blah. It's just like they're not open-minded, and you can get very jaded with that. I have people tell me I'm unskilled, but they're like, what is your degree? Are you a PhD in anthropology? What right do you have to say this stuff? And, you can get very jaded by that, because there's times I've thought about just pulling everything and saying goodbye. Goodbye. Have fun with it. Have fun with your lies and life, and I'm done. But I can't, because I know I gotta do this stuff.
I think the subject matter is so deep and it's so broad that to have it appeal to the masses of our culture, the world culture, or just our country culture, it's tough to tie it in. So
Yeah.
you say Atlanteans and Greek mythology and Roman mythology and all this stuff, and it's like, to me, that's like Homer the Odyssey there, or Latin class from 6th grade.
And it's boring, right?
Well, no, it's not boring, but they're stories, and that's what we were taught. Right?
Exactly.
So Zeus's wife Hera and their child, I forget who it is, I'm sorry, but to us it's their stories of Greek gods, and there's no direct link to real world,
Right.
to the real history, whether it's 6, 10, 20, 80,000 years ago, and what that means. And maybe if you can bring that link together of, these are great stories, but they're not just stories. This is actually history, and this is what happened. If you can make it more relatable to everyday person, and I know you're passionate about it, but I do marketing for my own business, so I'm just thinking, if you know what crowd you want to address, what's the best way to get to them? Keeping it simple, keeping it relatable, and making it more interesting. And you'll draw in more crowds, and you'll broaden the base.
And that's, if you look at my site, hiddenhumanstory.com, that's what I try to do.
Okay.
And my card was a white man from Crete. But, how do you get this to people? How do you get it to people without them saying, Yahweh, you Satan, daughter of Satan? Or whatever else they tell me. That's the secret, and you have to, I think it's like a seed. You have to put it in the ground and let it grow.
Right. Start the discussion. And
Yeah,
you're doing that.
I can't.
And that's great.
I can't go from the seed to a huge tree, and that's where the frustration is. But you have to start somewhere, and this is my second presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? I appreciate your input. Maybe you guys can help me. You gotta, if you look at my website and you say, look, Leah, this is like too much. Fix this up. I would tell you something else. They've hacked my websites.
Really?
They've destroyed them. I've had to redo them.
Oh my gosh.
And that was when I wasn't big. They hacked my websites.
Wow.
So what are they trying to keep you from getting out? That's what I'm trying to figure out. What's the big secret?
What are they so afraid of?
The secret is the identity of God, the identity of, or
But there's
people
no
behind
one
your
answer.
religion.
There's no one answer. There's so many answers
you
over so
could
many
say that too,
platforms. So what
right.
the hell are they afraid of?
Many Christians may be aggressive in case if you compare Jesus Christ to particular other deities and equalize and make them equal. And that is a kind of insult.
That's true.
Just go to my
That's true.
hiddenhumanstory.com and it should have links there. I don't know what it's, I think it's YouTube, Hidden Human Story, but just go to my hiddenhumanstory.com, or even that I just gave you. It should have links that you should be able to link, find this, find this, find this. And just, if something you
But
hear
the
bothers
same
you,
Christians,
just let it roll.
if
Find
you
something
will
else that- you know
give
what I'm
all
saying?
this
I can't
information
please everybody,
as a
and
kind of
everybody has a
from
different
as a point of view of
reaction because of their
archetypes, that there are such
beliefs and
such
what
archetypes
they
like
know. I
Carl
had one woman get
Jung
really
or
upset
Jung
because she's
was
like, I gotta
Yeah, yeah,
believe
Carl
in
Jung,
God.
Jung.
And
With
she's,
archetypes, you know.
I gotta have
Mhm.
something to believe in.
Then
And I'm like,
it
that's
all
fine.
goes well because archetypes has nothing to do with gods. They are just archetypes, and they are something in your mind, and then everything's fine.
And
You
this
may
is
do
only an
whatever
hour.
you
I'm like,
want.
there's so
Exactly,
much
and and to
more
me,
I
there's
can tell you
no
that,
hard and
I can't
fast
just
rule.
pound
There is
this
no
all
black
out.
and white. There is no truth and
It's
false.
too much.
I mean,
It's too much.
I'm
You're
open to
talking like
anything. To me,
years
anything's
to
possible.
bring all that in.
You know, whether
But
it's
I'm trying
it's
to condense it down to
giants
an hour.
or whatever it
And
is.
simple
I'll
stuff.
listen to just about
Or
anything,
anything else.
and I'll take everything like little bits of all the informations and all that. But you know, have these hardliners, to have these complete
Well, tell her she
extremists
wants to talk
saying
to
how wrong or how crazy, that's ridiculous. You know,
So much information.
there's a lot of extremists out there in all religions, unfortunately.
Oh, yes, it was
Thank you.
fascinating, I loved it.
I wonder if my cameras lasted.
So much
Oh.
Oh, this one did. I think it did.